Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So, I am recording this episode on Wednesday this week, so if you sent me things later in the week, that's why you're not represented on this one, but we'll catch you next week. But yeah, I'm doing that because the next few days of my life are going to be insane. This is one of those weeks where I'm going to be off doing all the things. So tomorrow I'm headed down to visit Miles, and we are going to end our evening by heading to Wilkes-Barre, PA, where my grandparents used to live, to spend time with my parents for my birthday and Easter. So Friday is going to be a big dinner with a bunch of people who I've known my entire life and who are all like, 150 years old. Okay. That's mean. They're probably closer to 200, let's be honest. I don't know. All I know is some of these people were old when I met them as a baby. I'm just saying. But anyway, then on Saturday, we're going to spend some time tearing it up in Wilkes-Barre. Whatever that means. But hey, yay, family time. And then Sunday is my birthday, as well as a family Easter celebration, which leads to a fun story. So the last time my birthday fell on Easter was actually my 21st birthday. Now, this may come as a shocker to you, but I had, in fact, consumed alcohol before my 21st birthday. I know, rebel, rock star, all that jazz. But as I said, my 21st landed on Easter, which was spent at my grandparents' house with my grandparents and my parents. So instead of the tradition of going out with friends right at midnight when you turn 21, I was in a town where the next youngest people I knew were my parents. And the next day at our Easter lunch/dinner type, we always eat like kind of in the middle of the day, I had a glass of wine. And I reached to refill the glass. And my grandparents were both like, no, Jonathan, no. Then they kept saying that since it was my first alcohol, I needed to not drink too much, to drink in moderation and to calm down. Suffice it to say, it was not the legendary party that many people have for their 21st. Although I will say I did make up for it a little bit. I've never actually been that much of a drinker, honestly, but I definitely had a good time when I got back home. But anyway, back to my week. After all the family stuff, I'm heading to New York City to go play a show with Great Balls of Fire at the Triad Theater. So, if you're in town, come check us out. And then it's up to Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence for an interview all about and a tour of the new red panda habitat. I might even fit in one more interview while I'm up in the New England area before heading back to Buffalo, where I plan to get in late Thursday night before an early shift at the Aquarium of Niagara on Friday. So that's my week, and I'm really, really excited about, honestly, all of it. I just love when I have a week that kind of encompasses all of the John things. I travel so much that I'm very good at packing. I honestly usually spend between 5 and 10 minutes packing for a long trip, no exaggeration. But in this case, the real trick is to make sure I have everything I need for all the aspects of the trip. I need to bring a snare drum, some cymbals, my drumsticks, my podcast recording gear, my Easter stuff, like the gifts for Miles, and he gets a basket and stuff. My car is kind of gonna look like an insane person lives in it, but I mean, Actually, to be fair, other than the living it up thing. But hey, whatever. Anyway, enough about me. This is Rossifari Zoo News. So friendly reminder, you can tag me on socials or email me Zoo News stories, and I'll say your name at the end of the episode. So the socials are at Rossifari Pod on TikTok, and the email is rossifaripod@gmail.com. So if you want to hear your name at the end of an episode, then you can send me stuff. Yay! And with all that said, let's get to it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ow, that's a funky monkey. Tree kangaroo. Or a binturong.
It's Zoo News.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So our top story this week is actually just a continuation of a top story from a few weeks ago, as the necropsy report has been released for Flaco the owl. Now, I'm sure you remember, but Flaco is the owl that flew out of his habitat at the Central Park Zoo after said habitat was vandalized. Attempts were made to recover him, but he ended up living the remainder of his life in Manhattan until an untimely death a little over a year after the act of vandalism occurred. Initial investigation showed that Flaco died from a window strike, a very common way for a bird to die in any city, especially New York. Well, the official necropsy report goes even deeper into it, and the findings are really sad, but also very much not surprising. So even though I ranted about this recently, I'm gonna do it again. So it turns out that Flaco did die of traumatic injuries from a window strike, multiple traumatic injuries to be clear. That is true. But he was also found to have a severe pigeon herpes virus he got from eating feral pigeons, which, by the way, are something this owl should have never been eating. Now, he also died with injuries from exposure to 4 different anticoagulant rodenticides that are commonly used for rat control in the city. The presence of these chemicals and the virus would have started making life miserable for Flaco soon, even before he ran into a window, and would have ultimately proven to be fatal to him in the near future. This was a bird that was living on borrowed time from the second a criminal decided to vandalize his enclosure. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I need to take a second to remind people that the NYPD has no suspects in this crime, and thus there is no official motive associated with it. We don't know why Flaco was released out into the city to face an untimely death that could have come from numerous sources, if not for the bird strike. What we do know is that, regardless of the initial motive, a lot of the anti-zoo people out there praised this action and are still to this day saying that it was better for Flaco to have experienced a year of, quote, true freedom than to have to suffer through, again, quote, life in prison. But we know better, don't we? We know that Flaco went from an amazing life with a care team that loved him, healthy meals provided to him, and some of the best veterinary care in the world available to him at a moment's notice, to a life filled with fear, loneliness, and pain, suffering, and eventual death. As you read the takes people have on this, don't forget, Flaco not only had these medical issues, but was exhibiting multiple behavioral issues as well, including looking in at people in their homes and also searching in vain for a mate. A search that would have always been fruitless, as his species isn't found in New York City. But the anti-zoo crowd will continue to spin this and to want the release of all animals back into the wild, without fully understanding that there is no wild anymore, and that stuff like this is what would happen to a vast majority of the animals in human care. The fact that Flaco made it a year is, frankly, a miracle. And a lot of the conversation in the press right now is focusing on the rodenticide and the effect it is having on the birds of the city in general. And I do think that is a super important conversation to have. But it also misses the point of this story, in my opinion. Many of these articles talk about Flaco as some kind of tragic hero, when the truth is Flaco was the victim of a crime, and just like many crime victims, was left to pick up the pieces alone, ultimately trying his best and failing to ever fully recover from what happened to him. And look, I know, that sounds harsh. And I'm certainly not ripping on Flaco here. I feel so badly for him, and so badly for the team that cared for him and loved him. But I think it's important for all of us to help frame the conversation properly when we talk to people about Flaco, and to remember that the hero spin, while it can make us feel good about Flaco, it can make us feel good, can actually hurt the larger conversation about what happened. I hope the criminals who vandalized his exhibit are found and prosecuted. Let's be clear. This is on them. They killed this beautiful bird, robbing him of decades of life and causing him untold suffering during his last year. The exact suffering zoo vets are trained to eliminate with preventative care, and even, should something like that have happened, eliminate a lot of the suffering from through humane euthanasia. At the end of the day, the person or people who set Flaco free killed this bird. And that's apparently the outcome a lot of the anti-zoo crowd finds acceptable for all animals in zoos and aquariums. And I, for one, well, I disagree. So, okay, sorry to start with such a downer, but hey, now we get to talk about baby animals. And we are starting off with a really exciting one because Sydney's Taronga Zoo has announced the birth of twin red panda cubs. Woo! More pandlets! Yay! The cubs were actually born back in early December, but the zoo waited to announce until they were ready to go on their habitat. There are two cubs, a male and a female, and both are doing very well. At almost 4 months old now, the cubs are already past that early panda phase you have seen with my early pictures and videos from like the Greensboro Science Center, and are now just tiny little adorable red pandas. Check out Taronga Zoo's social media pages for pics and videos of these little ones. The Brookfield Zoo has welcomed a gray seal pup. He is currently behind the scenes with his mother, Georgie, where he is practicing swimming skills in a pool that has been specially modified to allow the little guy easy access in and out. Yes, it is a gray seal with a baby pool. You are welcome for that mental image. The Central Park Zoo has announced the birth of not one, but two new lambs. The lambs are only a few weeks old and are already out with the rest of the flock at the zoo, and their energy is relentless. If you want a good laugh, check out the videos the zoo has posted of the lambs being very, well, lammy. It's good for a laugh for sure. A log has apparently developed a small bump on it at ZooMiami. No. Wait, let me look at that picture again. Oh, I see. A tawny frogmouth has hatched at ZooMiami, the first time the species has hatched at the zoo ever. The parents are both doing a great job raising the chick, though it has been snuck out of its habitat a few times to get weights and check the health of the bird. Each time it was returned without incident, and the zoo plans on letting the parents fully raise the chick unless given a reason not to. Congrats to the team. Our friends at the Nashville Zoo have announced the birth of a male spotted Phaneloca pup. As with many of the juvenile animals at the zoo that need a hand in rearing, you can actually see the pup at the zoo's vet hospital, which is an incredible opportunity. Phaneloca are not a very common species in the zoo world, and I'm fairly confident the only place I've seen them is at Nashville. So if you have a chance, go check this little one out. The Duke Lemur Center has announced the second infant of the 2024 baby season, a cockerel's female sheephock. The baby has been named Pax, after the Roman goddess of peace. This little one is also connected to a celebrity, as she is the grandniece of Zooboomafu. Also, I can't help but wonder if the team didn't name her after the goddess of peace in a very hopeful attempt, because I have to tell y'all, I have seen some baby lemurs, and fun, yes. Cute, yes. Playful, yes. Peaceful, not so much. So maybe they're being a little hopeful there. A Eurasian Eagle Owl has hatched at the National Aviary in Pittsburgh. The chick is actually visible in the Avian Care Center window and is absolutely adorable. Eurasian eagle owls are one of the world's largest owl species, so this birth is a big deal. Get it? Move on? I'll move on. The Brevard Zoo has announced the birth of a baby two-toed sloth. The slothlet is living on mom, meaning you may be able to catch a glimpse of the little one if you visit the zoo and see mom on exhibit. It'll be the tiny little sloth-looking thing that's on mom. Kind of just looks like it's part of mom. But then last but not least in this section, Altina Wildlife Park in Australia has announced the birth of a cotton-top tamarin baby. The cotton-top tamarin breeding program is relatively small in Australia, and the species itself is one of the most endangered monkeys out there, so this is a very exciting birth for the facility. And of course, that brings us to the flip of the coin, our deaths section. And honestly, y'all, this is another one of those weeks that just kind of sucks in this section for me. I mean, this section always sucks. It's always hard. But yeah, our dear friends at the Greensboro Science Center have said goodbye to Reese, one of the ring-tailed lemurs at the zoo. Reese was diagnosed with cancer last year, and it was extensive enough that palliative care was the only option for Reese, who got to spend her last few months getting special care from the animal care staff while receiving medications to keep her living her best life. Reese was an awesome lemur I had the chance to meet last year, and she really was a special girl. Sending all my love to the team at Greensboro. Miss you, Reese. The Cape May County Zoo has announced the passing of Blue the crow. Blue had lived at the zoo since 1999 and was known for welcoming guests with a happy hello. I actually got to see Blue numerous times as I'd visit the zoo, and he and his cage mate Loki were the reason I often spent more time in the foyer of the aviary where they lived than in the actual, aviary part of the aviary. He will be missed. All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
Another sad loss, Ivy, one of the bat-eared foxes that lived in Jack Hanna's Animal Encounters village at the Columbus Zoo, has passed away. She was 1 month away from her 5th birthday, which is young. But Ivy was diabetic, and despite the best efforts of the care team, her condition deteriorated rapidly, leading to additional complications that led to the decision to humanely euthanize her. Now, I never personally had the pleasure of meeting Ivy, but her and her bestie Bruce were two animals I looked forward to seeing every time I visited AEV. She will be greatly missed by her team and the visitors of the Columbus Zoo. The Brandywine Zoo in Delaware has announced the passing of Candace, their resident capybara. Candace is another one of those animals I never got to meet, but had the pleasure of seeing on exhibit numerous times, and it was always a treat. Candace actually started her life as a household pet, which is not a good idea, but she went to the zoo in 2014 and lived there for the rest of her life. And even with a tough beginning to her life, Candace outlived the median life expectancy of a capybara in human care, but her osteoarthritis ended up making her life uncomfortable, so the decision was made to euthanize her. The zoo just won't feel the same without her. The Memphis Zoo has announced the passing of Angela Kate, one of the most popular giraffes at the zoo. She actually fell while on exhibit, and the severity of the sustained injuries left her with no possibility for recovery, so the vets made the decision to humanely euthanize her. It's not known why she fell, but the entire remaining herd is being held off exhibit while the zoo works to make sure it is safe for all the other giraffe. Angela Kate was a special girl, being the first successful giraffe birth at the Memphis Zoo in 15 years, and requiring bottle feeding and round-the-clock care from the animal care staff to keep her going in her early days. She also really loved hanging out at the giraffe deck and would frequently dip her ear in the drinker there and then flick the water at guests, getting them a little wet. This huge personality will be missed greatly at the Memphis Zoo. And then last in this section, but certainly not least, the Alaska Zoo has announced the death of Kunali, the last remaining Amur tiger at the zoo. Kunali passed away peacefully in his sleep due to complications related to his advanced age. He was 19 and a half years old, pretty impressive for a species that lives 8 to 10 years on average in the wild. Sending condolences to the team at the Alaska Zoo. And then moving on from births and deaths, we get to the rest of our Zoo News section. So I mentioned it briefly at the top of this episode, but Roger Williams Park Zoo has officially opened its new red panda habitat, and it looks stunning. The two pandas living at the zoo are Kenji and Zan. Now, Kenji is a name y'all should recognize, as he moved there from the Cincinnati Zoo, where he was the longtime mate of Lynn, who recently passed away, but after his move. Zan is also a panda you heard about on the podcast, as she is one of the cubs born to Hazel and Yukiko back at Woodland Park Zoo before Yukiko passed and Hazel moved to Memphis. Now, I haven't had the opportunity to see Zan yet, though I did see her sibling, Tian, or Tian, I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways, at Lincoln Children's Zoo. Now, I'm excited to finally meet Zan and see Kenji again when I visit the zoo to bring you a more thorough exploration of this new habitat. But I have to tell y'all, it looks amazing, and I am really excited about it. Now, one of the stories that I've been following on here recently pertains to a gorilla at the Fort Worth Zoo. No, not that one, but Jamila, the gorilla that was born prematurely by cesarean section earlier this year. After the C-section, Jamila's mom, Sikani, rejected the baby. The zoo moved quickly to identify a foster mom and started working with Gracie, another female gorilla in the troop, training her to serve as a foster mother. The training went okay, but Gracie wasn't really into it, so the zoo moved on again, this time to a female named Fred. Sadly, Fred also decided she wasn't interested in being Jamila's mother, so the decision has been made to move Jamila to the Cleveland Metroparks Zoo, where she will be fostered by one of the females in the troop there, hopefully. There is no guarantee, but the zoo has been successful with their own gorilla births and the troop raising them effectively, so fingers crossed that Jamila finally finds the surrogate mother she needs. Jamila is currently 11 weeks old, so the sooner she gets to learn how to be a gorilla from a gorilla, the better. Props to both zoos for working so hard to get this little girl integrated into a troop. And special bonus props to the team at the Fort Worth Zoo for making the decision to let her leave despite the fact that her birth brought them a lot of great press and that people have been going to the zoo specifically to see her. There was even a banner about her on the front page of their website until this decision was made. But the zoo is putting the animals' welfare ahead of any other concerns, as they always do. So I'm very impressed. The Denver Zoo teamed up with Colorado State University researchers recently to complete a study on burnout, mental health, and animal loss in the industry. Now, the researchers involved are presenting findings from their study at Woodland Park Zoo in a 45-minute presentation with a 30-minute Q&A session to follow. The event is taking place on April 16th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time and is open to all. You can find a link to the event on either zoo's webpage or social media pages. I highly recommend you check it out. Our friends at Brevard Zoo have announced that 2 of their female white-nosed coatis are pregnant. This is a huge success, as it's been about 7 years since the last birth of a white-nosed coati in North American AZA-accredited facilities. The 2 mothers-to-be have been moved off exhibit to a quiet area where they will hopefully give birth and start raising the little ones. Here's hoping all goes well and these huge milestone births happen. I'm so excited for the zoo to share what worked for them with the rest of the facilities that host the species to hopefully make more successful births more common in the population. Woodland Park Zoo is doing the whole being transparent about a sad medical condition thing I love so much. Props to them for that. They recently announced that the swelling that has been seen in the cheek of water lily, their beloved 45-year-old hippo, is a form of cancer known as fibrosarcoma. Sadly, the cancer is inoperable, and the curative treatment plan that would often be done here is not likely possible at this point. So, as such, the Hippo Care Team is creating a palliative care plan to ensure her comfort and, of course, her care for as long as they can manage the situation. It's going to be a tough road ahead for the team and for Water Lily, but the zoo is letting people know about it now, and we can all be sure they are providing the absolute best care for this sweet, sweet girl. And then last but not least in zoo news, and I guess I could have put this in zoo births, but let's have some fun here. All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
What if I told you scientists discovered 100 new species in the deep ocean?
Why did crocodiles survive extinction?
Megalodon. How did it go extinct?
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You might know me from Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive and Shark Week. Join me and my friends as we dive into the wild world of animal anomalies and everything wildlife. Don't miss out. Click here to uncover these mind-blowing animal mysteries.
Punxsutawney Phil, the prognosticating groundhog that has made Groundhog Day such a huge holiday, is now officially a father. He and his mate Phyllis have given birth to 2 babies, and the whole family is visible at the small zoo in Punxsutawney where Phil lives. The zoo is located at the Punxsutawney Memorial Library. Wait, what? Okay, so obviously that sent me on an internet fact-finding mission / wormhole. A zoo at a library in a small town? Wait, what? But okay, from what I can tell, and there really isn't a lot about this on the web, the quote zoo only consists of Phil's habitat. He has a keeper who is named AJ Derume, but who goes by Rainmaker because why not? I guess. I don't know. Rainmaker and Phil have a very close relationship, and it is Rainmaker's job to take care of Phil and the family. And yes, when I say family, I'm saying it with a PH at the front of it in this case because of Phil and Phyllis. Now, interestingly, I learned something else about Punxsutawney Phil. According to the official story, everything I'm about to tell you is from their actual website. Phil is not just a normal groundhog who gets replaced after a few years. Apparently, Punxsutawney Phil attends a picnic on the first Saturday after Labor Day every year. And at that picnic, Phil drinks an elixir of life that extends his life by 7 years. Yep, the elixir extends his life by 7 years, but he gets it annually. So he's like stocking up, y'all. He's got a lot of years to live built up, even if they run out of the elixir. You know, there's all kinds of supply chain problems right now. So Phil is officially 139 years old and is still going strong. Now, interestingly enough, the official site, again, this is the official site, does say that Phyllis, his mate, the mother of his children, does not receive the elixir, and as such, she will have the normal lifespan of a groundhog in human care, which is up to 14 years. Now, this is the first time Phil has had children, so I'll be curious to see if his genes contain any of that elixir, or if the elixir will be granted to his children. And maybe now Phyllis, now that she's kind of become the mother of Phil's children, will get some. Because I guess if not, and if you take this story seriously, and we have to, it's from their official webpage, then I guess you could argue that Punxsutawney Phil has been sentenced to a pseudo-immortality in which he watches every partner and child he loves die in what must be the blink of an eye for him, sending him into a spiral of grief and depression and eventually turning him into a comic book supervillain type monster. But hey, at least we'll never have to wonder if spring will be early or late.
Conservation, news time. Oh yeah.
All right, so we are going to start conservation news with a friendly reminder this week. It's spring, and that means it's migration time for birds. And you can help birds by turning off your lights outside at night. Bright lights can confuse birds, which can lead to all sorts of issues, so make sure you turn off those lights at night, my friends. The U.S. Postal Service is releasing 6 commemorative sea turtle stamps on June 11th of this year. The Forever stamps were designed with the help of the National Sea Turtle Coordinator, which is a position I've just discovered exists, and the lead of the Marine Turtle Ecology and Assessment Program. The 3 I have seen are absolutely adorable, and I plan on stocking up on these stamps for sure. So, in a less fun bit of conversation, there's some concerning news from Nepal this week. Nepal and Qatar are poised to sign multiple agreements with each other in which Qatar plans on investing heavily in projects in Nepal. It sounds okay on the surface, right? Some of the expected investments are in additional airports and even hydroelectricity, which, again, sounds, pretty good on the surface. So, as these diplomatic meetings start to happen in April, what is Nepal going to offer the Qatari Foreign Ministry? Well, the plan is currently for Nepal to gift 2 elephant calves to Qatar. Qatar has also requested a rhinoceros and a red panda, which are still being considered by the Nepali government. Obviously, I'm incredibly opposed to this. Even more so than for the reasons you would expect, because the area of the world that Qatar is in is already notorious for people having exotic animals as pets, and many of them are illegally trafficked. Seeing members of the government with these animals, even if obtained in a legal way, will just encourage others to seek them illegally, so this is something that can directly encourage the illegal wildlife trade, especially when it comes to red pandas. I really hope the Nepali government reconsiders this terrible plan. Red Panda Network loves to say pandas aren't pets, and, they aren't currency either. Okay, on a lighter note, the Dutch fish doorbell is back. I repeat, the Dutch fish doorbell is back. Oh, I should probably explain what the heck I'm talking about, shouldn't I? Well, in the Dutch town of Utrecht, a bunch of canals are there with locks installed. The locks stay closed in the spring until the recreational season starts. When fish are migrating upstream, they bump their heads against the locks, and then they just stop and wait for an opportunity to continue just flopping there, which uses a lot of their energy, and that opportunity is not coming until the spring. So there is now a website, which I'll link to in the show notes, where you can actually hop online and keep an eye on an underwater camera by these locks. Then, when fish appear, you can press the digital fish doorbell, and the lock keeper will come and open the lock, allowing the fish to pass through before closing it again. This is a great way to help fish and also to remind yourself about the unseen wildlife in your own cities. Now, you can check it out at viserdoorbell.nl, viserdeurbel.nl, which, again, I'll include in the show notes. Oh, and speaking of fish, there's a weird thing happening in the Florida Keys right now. Fish there have started swimming in circles, like in tight circles, spinning and whirling round and round, until they die. This behavior has been seen in at least 44 species of fish, including some critically endangered ones. And no one knows why. Some possibilities have been proposed. Algal blooms, which can produce neurotoxins that impact fish behavior, pollutants, environmental factors such as low oxygen or high temperatures, and a potential new parasite that hasn't been discovered yet are all believed to be possibilities that still need to be tested for. But as of right now, this is just going to be one of those stories that we have to follow because we really don't know what's going on. But this is really bad for the fish in the Florida Keys.
And speaking of fish, what do you call a fish with no eyes?
What?
A fish.
Who let you in here anyway?
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now, it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the part called other news.
All right, so we just have one story in other news this week. Giant pandas are one of the most easily recognized species of animals in the world, in part because of their distinctive look. However, not all panda bears actually look that way. There are some pandas that have brown and white fur instead of the signature black, which inhabit a single mountain range in China. But up until now, no one knew why these bears had their unique look. But now, scientists believe they know, which means that now you will get to believe that you know. So they did some research on the one of these bears that exists in human care, and the scientists have concluded that the bear coats are brown and white because of natural variation. It's just a recessive gene like certain eye and hair colors in humans. Yep. That's it. The pandas are brown and white because sometimes things vary in nature. You're welcome.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
All right, and that brings us to our animal holidays for the week, and it is currently still March, which is my birthday month, and also Dolphin Awareness Month. For the week, we have March 30th is when we celebrate Earth Hour, and March 31st is officially Rossifari Day because it's my birthday. Yay! I'm the only one who cares. Just realize that. Anyway, then we get to April, which is Ape Awareness Month and National Frog Month. April 1st to the 5th is National Wildlife Week. And let's remember that for the first time ever, April 1st is also Tasmanian Devil Day, a new holiday that they're starting, which is really cool. But that's not all on the 1st. The 1st of April is World Water Frog Day. The 2nd is National Ferret Day. And the 4th is World Rat Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. And the last time you'll have to hear about my upcoming birthday for like a whole year. So congratulations to everyone who's made it through the month. All right, so there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is done. Hope y'all enjoyed this one, and we'll be back on Tuesday for one of our lovely interview episodes. Probably going to be one from a new facility, but I'm going to have to check the audio on that one to make sure that I can get it done in time. But I'm hoping we'll have back-to-back new facilities on the podcast, which is always an exciting time. But whether it's a new facility or an old friend, I promise you're going to love it, because everything that I've already recorded right now, they're all great episodes. Not going to lie. Or I should say at least great interviews, because we've had some amazing guests that I'm getting excited to share with y'all. But until that happens, I got just a couple quick things to do. First of all, I've got to say a thank you to my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, and Jenny Owens. And then also, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who contributed a story this week. Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Sam Evans, Kay Malensky, Ali Malensky, the Malenskys. I went low that time. Dr. Laura Schenk, Ken Tryon, Emily Rockbuck, Marianne Rossi, Melissa Reed, Ann Yoshioka, Elizabeth Dunlevy, Jay Meredith, Jacob Zinn, Rowena White, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Elizabeth Charles, yes, and Rebecca Surian. Thank you all so much for sending me stuff this week. And remember, friends, the words Newsy Credits Backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari, or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. As he moved there from the Cincinnati Zoo, he was...